Welcome to The Shoreline, brought to you by Shores and Islands, Ohio, where finding your Lake Erie love is a sure thing. Thank you for joining us. We bring you The Shoreline each week to give you the inside scoop on what's happening here in our island and coastal communities. I am your host, Jill Bauer. I am the PR manager for Shores and Islands, Ohio, and I'm flying solo on this episode, as this episode is coming out on Veterans Day. Please allow me to thank all those that have served and fought for our freedoms. There have been some great Veterans Day events, both last week and this week. And if you listened to our last episode with the Fireland Symphony Orchestra, you know that there is still a commemorative concert this upcoming weekend at Sawmill Creek Resort in Huron. It's called An American Salute, and it's on Sunday, November 17th. And that will be a fantastic kickoff to the orchestra's musical season. If you want to know more, go back and listen to last week's episode. Also, the holiday lights display at the Erie County Fairgrounds, Lights on the North Coast, opens this week, and I'm here for it. I'm here for all the sparkly, festive, and cozy holiday things, which is one reason I'm super excited about our guest today, because this attraction, the R.B. Hayes Presidential Library and Museum, combines important American history with really special holiday events dubbed a presidential Christmas. But before I get to our special guest, if you're looking for fun and festive ways to celebrate the season, support local businesses, or if you're just looking for things to do in the region right now or even on a future visit, be sure to follow along with all of our social media accounts to see what's coming up. Be sure to engage with those posts. We love comments, questions, and suggestions on where you want to see us go next. If you don't know what those social links are, of course, you can find them on our website, as always, shoresandislands.com. So today on the podcast, we're going to talk to a fantastic Shores and Islands, Ohio partner and a neighbor just down the road in Sandusky County. Kristina Smith is the Marketing Communications Manager at the Hayes Presidential Library and Museums, where she promotes everything there is to do at the estate of the 19th U.S. President, Rutherford B. Hayes, and his wife, Lucy, in Fremont. Kristina lives in Port Clinton, and she loves exploring the Shores and Islands region. So welcome to the podcast, Kristina.
Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So glad that you're here, and we've known each other for a while. I know you've been around the region for a long time. So, in addition to your role with R.B. Hayes, I know that you're a big fan of lots of things that go on in the Shores and Islands region.
Yes, I love living in this area. I feel very blessed. There are unlimited things to do. So it's fun to work in tourism in this area too, because I love pointing people to everything.
Absolutely. So let's start with the basics about where you work. And this probably sounds like a loaded question, but who is Rutherford B. Hayes? Why is he an important Ohio historical figure?
Well, that's a great question because Rutherford B. Hayes was our 19th U.S. president, and sometimes he gets a bit forgotten with the other bearded presidents after the Civil War. So he came after Ulysses Grant and right before James Garfield. So you had 3 Ohioans in a row right there.
We were popular then.
Yes, yeah. Ohio actually has 8 presidents, although some states, Grant, obviously other states claim him as well. But so we're kind of the birthplace of presidents here. And so Hayes was number 19. He actually was born in Delaware, Ohio, down by Columbus. And he served as a city solicitor in Cincinnati. He worked as a lawyer. He actually defended freedom seekers at that time. He was governor of Ohio. Before that, he served in Congress. So a lot of people ask me, well, why is his home in Fremont?
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. So his home is here because his uncle Sardis Burchard lived here. And Hayes and Sardis had a very close relationship. So Hayes's family moved to Delaware, Ohio from New England while Hayes's mother was pregnant with him. And his dad got sick and died before he was born. So Uncle Sardis, who was Hayes's mother's brother, if that makes sense, kind of stepped in and was the father figure. So he owned Spiegel Grove, which is the name of the estate where the Hayes home and the Hayes Hayes Presidential Library and Museums are located. And he built the house here as a summer home for Rutherford and his wife, Lucy. And Sardis lived here for a while, too. And then he gave the house to Rutherford and Lucy, and he moved to another big, beautiful Victorian home here in town, and it was Rutherford and Lucy's retirement home. So they lived here when they retired from him being governor. He had planned to retire, and then instead he ran for president. So they were here for a few years before the presidency, and then
he had to go to Washington, D.C. for a few years.
Yes, yeah.
When did he come back to Fremont then when he was finished?
Yes, yeah. So he served from 1877 to 1881. He did one term. He said from the outset he would only do one. He did not believe in multiple terms. So they did come back here and lived out the rest of their lives here at Spiegel Grove.
So is it true that you are the nation's first presidential library?
We are. So we are not part of the federal system. We actually predate the federal system. So President and Lucy's son, Webb Cook Hayes, after they died, he wanted to build a library and a memorial and preserve their papers and their artifacts and things. And it was a new concept at the time. So he built this place, opened it in 1916. So the museum and library went up right next to the Hayes home where he was living at the time. And it was a new thing at that time. We actually, when the first federal presidential library site which is the Franklin Delano Roosevelt site in New York State, was getting together. They actually wrote to the library here for some advice. So we like to say that we're somewhat the model for the federal presidential site, but we're owned by the state of Ohio. So we do get some state funding and we have an endowment and we do our own fundraising, but we don't get any federal funding.
Okay. So you have, Spiegel Grove, you mentioned, is the estate where the home is. And so then additionally, there was a library and museums, plural, built?
Yes. Yeah. So we say museums, plural, because there's so much to do here. We've tried to fit everything into the name. So the house is also a museum. It's a historic house museum. So you have...
Nobody is living there now.
Yes, nobody lives there now. We're fortunate to have it, and it's in wonderful condition. The descendants of President Hayes and Lucy Hayes lived here until 1965, and then they gave the house to the state of Ohio. And fortunately for us, they had saved everything. So the house opened for tours shortly after they left in the 60s. So we have the home, and that's a 31-room Victorian mansion. It's been restored on the first floor and part of the second floor to look as it did when Rutherford and Lucy lived here. And then the rest of the second floor reflects the later generations of the Hayeses. And then we have the library and museum building. So the research library is on the third floor. And then we also have levels where we have secure storage for President Hayes' books and his papers. And then we have two levels in the same building as the library for the museum. And so we have several permanent exhibits, and we use, thankfully for us, the Hayeses, Rutherford and Lucy saved everything as well, and so did their descendants. So we tell their story through their diary entries and their letters and their artifacts and their photos and things like that. And then we regularly have rotating exhibits as well.
Now, you mentioned the research library. Tell us a little bit about that, because that's unique, I think.
Yes. So we're very fortunate to have this in the region. Before I worked here, I actually did quite a bit of research at the library, and that's one of the ways I spent so much time here and wanted to work here. But you can come in and, as I mentioned, we do have all of President Hayes' books. He had more than 10,000. We have all of his papers, but we also have several other collecting areas. We have a ginormous collection of Lake Erie photographs and records. So we have historic photos and records from Cedar Point, for example. We have a lot of photos of Erie County from a photographer named Ernst Niebergall, who lived, he was alive during the World War II era. So we have lots of collecting areas. One of the main reasons people come visit us is for genealogy. We have a renowned genealogy collection. So you can come here and our librarians will help you. We have several several genealogy subscription services that you can use here in our library that you would otherwise have to pay for. And then we have lots of records and family histories and things like that. So it's definitely, it runs the gamut. We've had scholars from around the world come here to write about issues that President Hayes dealt with during his administration. And then we have people like my mom has come here and started doing our family genealogy. So you can look up records on your home. It's just kind of unlimited, the different things that we have here.
Is the research library and the genealogy related things, is that only for people who have, ancestors in Ohio, or does that reach?
It does reach further. We do of course have a quite extensive Ohio collection, but we have a set of what we call the silver books. And so that goes back to people who came over on the Mayflower. So we can help you with out-of-state research as well.
Wow. So in addition to the research library, if somebody was just coming to check out the home and the museum, what kind of things can they experience while they're there? What are some of the permanent exhibits that you're, teaching? How are you teaching people about President Hayes?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. We have so much to do here. So you can tour the Hayes home. It's an hour guided tour. And one of the things I just love about that is nearly everything on the first floor. There are a few exceptions, but nearly everything belonged to Rutherford and Lucy. So when you go in, you are seeing the portraits they had made or the framed plaques that were given to them. You're seeing the chairs that they sat in. You see the bed that they both slept in and the bed that they died in. You see Lucy's sewing machine. And it's very homey. You feel like they could maybe pop out at any time. My favorite time to be in the home is actually at night. We do have some night events, but we're mostly open during the day. But it's just very cozy and homey. Even though it's an old, historic, huge home, I don't find it creepy at all being in there at night. I actually really enjoy being in there in the evening. But anyway, it's a great experience because you can see how they lived. And I think there's a way that seeing the things that they used and how they live really connects you to their time.
And then over at the museum, what are some of the regular exhibits that people can see? I remember seeing some things about, different almost controversial issues that were, of the time and things that, like you said, that he had to deal with during his presidency. What else is in the museum there? Yeah,
so the museum, we have two levels. The lower level deals with the early years of Rutherford and Lucy. So down there you'll find, things from his service as governor, a lot of things from the Civil War. So
he was a general? Or
yes, yeah, he rose to the rank of general. And what's interesting about this is I always tell my tours in the home, if President Hayes wanted you to know one thing about him, it would be that he served for the Union Army during the Civil War. So he was 38 or 39 when the war broke out. So he was old enough that he wouldn't have had to enlist, but he wrote in his diary or one of his letters, there's a quote from him where he says something to the effect of, he would rather die in battle than live and know that he hadn't fought and hadn't supported the effort. And so we have a lot of things from the Civil War. A staff favorite artifact that's on display in the diorama we have down there is the jacket he was wearing when he was shot at the Battle of South Mountain. So you can actually see the bullet hole in the arm of the jacket, and then you can see where the surgeon cut the jacket open. So that's very interesting. And then on the main level, we talk about the presidency and the post-presidency. And one of the things that people, if you have heard of Hayes, and don't feel bad if you haven't, because a lot of people haven't, just because, like I said, he tends to get lost during that time period. But a lot of people have heard about his contested election. He had probably the most contested election in U.S. history. And so we talk about that quite a bit. There's an election and campaign gallery. And one of the things that I think we can relate to, especially from the 2020 election, is at that time, President Hayes, he he thought that he had lost the election. And then his people started saying, no, it looks like, some of the freed slaves in the South who would have voted for him were intimidated away from the polls, and there were certain things in question. And so it took quite a while to sort this out. So back at that time, they inaugurated in March, whereas we inaugurate the president in January. So they vote in November, and they don't know until right before the inauguration in March who the president would be.
Yeah, they didn't have computers and all of that to count the votes. I bet it took a while.
And I know the last election, I like to tell my tours, last election we voted on a Tuesday, and we didn't find out for sure who the president was until a Saturday. And that seemed like a long time to us. So imagine months, where you're just waiting for any news. So a lot of people know him for that as well. So we go into quite a bit of depth talking about how he became president, the special commission that was appointed to decide who the winner was, and things of that nature. And we have his carriage. We have some things that show his life in the White House, his and Lucy's life in the White House. Lucy is very much as much a part of the exhibits as Rutherford is.
And I remember seeing some of the things that they were able to take with them from living in the White House, things like the china. Yes.
I love the china. One of the things I love about it is I call President Hayes an organized pack rat. So we do actually have some of their White House china, and it's on their original sideboard that they had made in Ohio. I believe it was made in Cincinnati to take with them to the White House. But most White House china is still like in the Smithsonian or in the White House. It still can be used for state dinners. But the ones we have all have something wrong with them. Like you can see they're chipped. And what they would do back at that time is like if a plate got a chip in it or one of the cups, they would throw it in the Potomac River because they weren't environmentally aware.
They didn't know any better.
Right. And so I could just picture President Hasey be like, no, I'll take that home if you're going to throw it away. And so it's kind of fun to look at the china. Some of it I can't see what the flaw in it was, but that's part of the reason that we have it, because most of it is still in the White House and some of it's in the Smithsonian. So it's very cool to see. And her china, Lucy's china, is very unique. Hers features flora and fauna of the U.S. And having seen a lot of the presidential china at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., I can tell you I've not seen anything like it. So it's very interesting. I like it a lot. It's got lots of animals and birds and fish on it. So very different.
That's really cool. Speaking of flora and fauna, that kind of takes me into my next question, which is about Spiegel Grove itself. I know that the estate, it's almost, I describe it to people as a park. It's open to the public and people are allowed to walk and picnic and things like that. And it was recently designated as an official arboretum because of all of the different trees that are on site. Can you talk a little bit about Spiegel Grove?
Yes, yeah. Spiegel Grove is just such a peaceful, it's such a great place. And you're absolutely right. It is a park. At one time it was called Spiegel Grove State Park. We actually have a sign in our archives. Now it's not a state park like through Ohio Department of Natural Resources, but it is an arboretum. We have a mile of paved trails. And one of the things I love is you always see people walking here or running or biking. There are some people, I've been here for 9 years, a little more than 9 years now. And there are some people who I see pretty much every day when I come in with their dogs, and we've commiserated because it's been 9 years. So they've lost dogs and gotten new dogs, as have I. So it's just very neat to see that. And Rutherford and Lucy's tomb is here, so you can walk back and see that. Something that a lot of people find interesting is behind their tomb, there are gravestones for two of their horses. So before they were moved here, that's kind of an interesting story because they weren't originally buried here. The area where they're buried was called the Knoll, and it was their favorite place on the property, and it was basically the pet cemetery. And I don't know, I know I can relate to that. In my parents' garden, there are cats and guinea pigs and, all dogs and all that, So the Hayeses did that as well. And then when their son was building this place, the Hayeses, Rutherford and Lucy, were originally buried at Oakwood Cemetery. And he moved them here to have everything together. So he put them in their favorite spot. But a lot of people love the trees. We have about 1,700 trees. We're always planting more, though, so that number varies. And some of them are very old. We have one that dates back to the American Revolution. We have some really unique trees. One of my favorites is the ginkgo tree. It's huge, and about this time of year, it turns bright yellow. So it's just really pretty to see. It's a beautiful, peaceful spot. And just a lot of people love to come here and walk. We also do have tree tours in the spring, summer, and early fall, and those are very popular, and our building and grounds superintendent or one of our staff members will take you around and show you the different trees and talk about the White House gates on the property and things of that nature.
Very cool. So sounds like there's so many opportunities when you visit. I mean, there's different buildings to tour, there's different things to learn. And you can just visit just to enjoy the beautiful park area as well without paying any kind of admission ticket or.
Yes. Yeah. So the Grove is absolutely free. You can come here and walk. It's open from dawn till dusk. And it's very neat. There are times, usually you'll see deer here in the evening, but there are times I've just been outside during the day and seen them run across the lawn. Earlier this summer, we had a fawn sleeping in, it was kind of not a great place, but it was right by the driveway in next to a tree. And it was very cool to see, we put up gates and we consulted with Back to the Wild. And it was neat to see everybody kind of supporting that we were trying to make sure the fawn didn't get disturbed or run over. So I would say the people who walk here and our members and all of our supporters are very almost protective of the Grove and very supportive of the Grove. And I think that's something very special.
And both in Spiegel Grove outdoors and within the Hayes home and within the museum and library, you actually host a number of events year round.
Yes.
So if people want to know what's going on, they should definitely follow you guys on all of your social media. You're, I assume, on Facebook.
Yes. So we do Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Twitter is now known as X. And it's at RB Hayes Pres, Pres. And we're also on YouTube as well. And we have quite a few events and specials too. One thing I did want to mention, since this is going to air on Veterans Day, is we have free admission on Veterans Day for veterans. So, yeah.
And I know you do other days like that throughout the year, special events, days that you have, open admission or discounted admission or things like that. So,
Yes.
Of course, follow for those events. We always have your events listed as well on our events calendar at shoresandislands.com. So make sure that you're looking for all of those awesome activities. But let's get into my favorite season, and what we're talking about is the Presidential Christmas. These are upcoming events. They're some of my favorites to promote. I'm sure they're probably some of your favorites as well.
Yes.
So let's start with the Hayes Train Special Model Train Display. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Hayes Train Special is a beloved tradition here. One of my favorite things about it is it's so much fun to see, like families and kids come in, but one of the things I love about it is it's not just seeing the kids go, oh, look at that. It's seeing the adults as well. So like people my age, grandparents. What I love about it is I think the trains and the winter scene they go through just captivate people of all ages. They make memories for kids today. And it's something that reminds all of us of our childhood. I'm sure a lot of us had trains at Christmas time, or just even the Christmas scene might remind you of your own Christmas decorations growing up and things like that. And so this display is in the museum auditorium. The display is free to the public. You can make a donation if you want, but it's kind of like our Christmas gift to the public. You can come in and bring whoever, or come in by yourself and check out the trains. There are multiple trains. I'm not sure how many we're having this year. Our curator of artifacts, Kevin Moore, sets the display up every year, and it's actually really involved. He has a degree in engineering, which is good because there's a lot of electrical engineering behind it and hardwiring it in. And so some years we have 9 trains, some years we have 12 trains. It depends on the displays because he tries to make it different every single year. But one of my favorite things with it is it's interactive. So my favorite button to press is the train whistle. And usually the staff knows when I've been in there because I'll hit the train whistle several times. But there's a train you can run. You can run, some years you can do the Ferris wheel. Some years you can make the ice skaters skate. So it's very interactive and it's a lot of fun.
And that is open the same hours as the museum.
Yes.
And then it begins on November 29th and will actually be open until January of 2025.
Yes,
so that's
January 5th.
Very cool. So to kick that off, I know, and to celebrate the opening of the exhibit, you guys are also having trackless train rides.
Yes, so this is the second year we're doing those. These are so much fun. Ramic Railway, I believe he's out of Findlay. Very nice man. He started this business as he made this miniature train, and adults can fit in it too because I've ridden in it. And he made it for his grandkids.
Good, because I was going to stuff myself in there.
Right. Yeah, it's actually pretty roomy, and then he even has blankets for you and everything.
Oh, how sweet.
So it's very cool, and you ride around the Grove, and it's made to look like a little train. And he's the conductor, and you get to see the Grove, and I think it's just a fun way to open the train. Like you can go in and see the Hayes Train Special exhibit, and then ride around the grounds in a train as well. So it's just kind of a fun experience.
Is there a cost to the train rides?
So the train rides are $2 a person for ages 3 and older, and that includes a cup of hot chocolate, and they're free for ages 2 and younger.
And that is on November 29th.
Yes,
what are the hours?
Yes, so it's from 1 to 4, and it's a good day. It's the day after Thanksgiving, so hopefully people will be out and about doing holiday things and stop by.
So, and because that's related, I'm going to go out of date order on the presidential Christmas events, but I wanted to keep this with the train special, and that's the model train clinic that you guys host every year. And it's going to be this year on December 7th. Now, what is the model train clinic?
So this is an opportunity for people who have model trains and maybe they're not working right, or they want to know how old they are, or maybe how much they're worth. They can bring them in, and we have model train enthusiasts. It's organized by a gentleman named Roundhouse Randy, and he brings enthusiasts in, and they're a lot of fun. They're very knowledgeable about trains, and so you can come in, and he and his friends who he brings will do the best they can to help you. I've seen them try to run the trains on tracks to fix them and look at the wheels and things. So they know way more about it than I do, of course. And then you can see the Hayes Train Special. And if your train fits on the tracks, you can even run it on the tracks. It's a great event. It's very popular. We have a lot of people who might have inherited a train set, or perhaps they've had their mother or their father's train set in the closet for a while, and they'll bring it in. This is different this year. The train clinic used to always be in January, and we moved it up because several people had said that they were like, well, we'd like to get our trains fixed before Christmas. They used to do it after because the thought was you ran your trains around your Christmas tree and you wanted to get them in good shape before you put them away.
Yeah.
Which is great, but some people, felt like, well, I can't get it to work and I want it to work for Christmas. So we moved it up. So it's December 7th, which is a Saturday, and that's from 11 to 4.
I like that idea because, a lot of times you'll pull things out of storage, right, for the holiday season, and then so disappointed when you can't make it work. So this is nice. You get everybody's trains in tip-top shape for the season. I love it. So let's talk about some of the more family-oriented events that you guys have. On December 1st, there's a Polar Express pajama party. I know my kids would have loved that when they were little, so tell me more about the
Yeah, we're really excited about this one. This is new this year. So they're still working out a lot of the details, but the kids can wear their favorite pajamas. And of course, their parents or an adult going with them are welcome to come too, and they can wear their pajamas.
I was just going to say, can I wear my pajamas?
Yes, for sure.
I'm in.
I might wear mine that day. We'll see. And they will read the Polar Express book. They'll get to see the Hayes Train Special, and our staff is working on creating a really fun, memorable experience around that theme.
That's really nice. And then what is the Lights of Spiegel Grove?
This is a really fun one. This is where we light up the grove. Every year we add more lights. So you can come, and this year everything is free. So of course you can see the Hayes Train special. We will have Kris Kringle, the Victorian name for Santa Claus, here.
Of course.
So get to meet him and get your picture taken with him. We have hot chocolate and popcorn. And this year, every year we've done tours of the first floor of the Hayes home, which we say is lightly decorated in a historically accurate manner. And that's because the Victorians did not decorate like we do today. Like, I think I have 5 or 6 Christmas trees at my house. Well, they had one, so we just want to make sure people don't think it'll look like Christmas threw up in the house. It'll be a little less.
They were a little subdued in the Victorian era. Okay.
Yes, yeah, but you'll get to see it. We always put up. Rutherford and Lucy had a feather tree in their bedroom, and we have a replica of that. And so you get to take a tour of the first floor of the home, and it'll be a little different this year. It's going to be free. So in the past, we used to charge for those, and instead, it's almost more like an open house. Like, you can come in and walk around the house, and there'll be staff stationed around, and you can ask questions. And we're trying this because, this is a family-friendly event, and sometimes, after you bring the kids and they've looked at the train and they've met Santa, it's kind of a lot. So we're hoping this will be easier for families who might want to just look through the house really quickly as opposed to doing a whole half-hour tour. But they're welcome to stay for a half hour too. We're just trying to make it a little more convenient for them.
And maybe people will want to come back.
Yes,
Speaking of the full experience, then on December 20th and 21st is the Hayes Home Holidays. So how does that differ?
Yeah, so Hayes Home Holidays has a theme every year. This is one of my favorite events. And this year we're going to be focusing on the Civil War and soldiers getting like a furlough pass to come home to celebrate Christmas. So it will kind of focus on the war era, not just the soldiers, but their families as well. And it's an hour-long tour. You get wassail, which is, I actually make the wassail every year. It's basically it's spiced apple cider, but it's a Victorian drink that they would have at the holidays. And so that's a lot of fun. We usually have some sort of surprise at the end. And so it's an hour tour, and you get to see different parts of the home. Again, it'll be lightly decorated, but there's always a theme to it and a script to it. And of course, while you're here, we always include some of the Christmas memories of Rutherford and Lucy as well and their family.
Those are a little bit more formal tours, but you offer a lot of them, right? It's over a 2-day period. What
Yes.
are the times?
Yes, so it is December 20th and 21st, and the tours start at 5 o'clock, and I believe the last tour leaves at 7 o'clock, so they get done at 8. So there are lots of tours in between there. They're every half hour. And this one we do have, costumed presenters who you can interact with. So it is a bit more of a formal tour, but it's more of I would call it a holiday experience. So it's a lot of fun. It's been very popular. And like I say, we try to do a different theme every year so that, we have some people who come every single year.
Sounds like a really interesting, cool event and a fun way to celebrate this season. So you have so much going on with your presidential Christmas. To round out the season, you guys also have a fantastic opportunity the week after Christmas when, most everybody's on holiday break. They're looking for things to do. That's when you guys have horse-drawn sleigh and trolley rides at Spiegel Grove.
Yeah, so those are from 1 to 4 p.m. each day. They're very, very popular. The sleigh can hold 4 people, a little bit more. Like I get asked sometimes, well, I have 2 toddlers. We can squeeze smaller kids in, but holds, 4 adults. And one of the things that I love about this is President Hayes loved riding in a horse-drawn sleigh. He writes about it quite a bit in his diary, and we actually have a picture of him riding in a sleigh here at Spiegel Grove. And so you get to see the grounds as he would have, or in the same method, I guess, as he would have, because he loved, and this wasn't just a Christmas thing. This was all winter. And he would ride in a sleigh, whether it was when he lived here or when he was in boarding school in New England as a youth, or, even in Washington, D.C. So it's something that he really enjoyed, and it's just a very unique experience. The sleigh rides do tend to sell out pretty quickly, so we're hoping to have tickets up in early December. And then the trolley rides are great because sometimes we have parties that are more than 4 adults, and the trolley is pulled by horses as well. They're Clydesdales, and they're beautiful. And so we've had, a couple years ago, we had a family buy out the whole trolley so they could ride around together. So that's also a really fun experience as well.
That is great. And you guys do them, I think, around President's Day as well sometimes?
We do. So President's Day, that's one of the days we have free admission. And as part of our celebration, we usually have either the trolley or the sleigh, sometimes both.
Also depends on the weather, right?
Yes. Yeah. So there have been years in the time I've been here that the wind chill has been so low that we've had to cancel, because, of course, it's not good for people to be out in it, but it's also
especially
really
not horses.
hard on the horses.
Yeah.
So, we want to make sure to take care of the horses as well as our guests. And so that's the most important thing. So sadly, there have been years where we've had to cancel, or if we've had a level 3 snow emergency where, staff can't get here and it's not safe to get here. We can't get here to do it. And of course, we don't want our guests traveling in a level 3 when it's potentially hazardous.
So, and that's where the social media comes in. Make sure that you're following the social media, because that's where you're going to go get the most up-to-date information on changes.
Yes, there and our website at rbhays.org as well.
And Kristina, are there any, not to put you on the spot, but are there any new exhibits, events, or initiatives that are coming up in 2025?
Yeah, so we do have an exhibit that opened in September. It's called Factions and Fraternalism, and it's a history of America's political parties. And I recognize that we just went through an election, and we've seen political ads all over the TV, so that might not sound super appealing. But it's a great exhibit, and it has a lot of memorabilia of past elections. So it's been very cool. Like I've when I've looked through it, I'm like, oh, that's the first election I could vote in. Oh, I remember that third party candidate. So I had some family come tour it a few weeks ago, and they loved looking at the different things over the years. There's things from Kennedy, things from Nixon, from Lyndon Johnson, all the way up through today. So even though it has that political connotation, it's a really interesting exhibit, and I think people, even if you're kind of worn out on election stuff, I think you would still enjoy it, because in some ways it's a walk down memory lane. And one of the main focuses of it actually is these third parties that no longer exist. So there were tons of them that I didn't know about, and it was very, very interesting to learn that. And we will next year, we are having another special exhibit open. Unfortunately, I don't have the information on that one yet, what that's going to be. But I know it's going to be really exciting. Our special exhibits are always a lot of fun. Our staff puts a ton of work into those. We also are talking about, I think it's okay if I share this, we did have a screening during our Civil War winter camp. It was actually the day after, during that weekend, of a film that was about the 5th U.S. colored troops in the Civil War. And we are thinking of perhaps having that film shown again in February. So that's something new that might be coming up. And, of course, we're excited about planning our usual events and working on some new things as well. So we always have something fun going on here.
Guys, you have, even when talking about the holiday events just now, you have some events that are free and, just kind of open and gifts to the public. You have some events that are ticketed events. You have some events that are just part of regular museum admission. And you have some things that require reservations. I assume, like some of those tours, you probably can only take so many people. Tell me again, tell the listener one more time, where can somebody go to find all of this information, to make those reservations?
So you can go to our website at rbhays.org, and there is a listing there. It's our guide to the holidays, and we have all the events there. You can also click on events at the top as well. There's multiple ways to get to everything, and you can buy tickets online. If you're not comfortable buying them online or you run into a problem, you can buy them at our museum front desk, or you can always give me a call and I can help you over the phone as well.
And also, just to point out, you have a great gift shop at the museum as well. A great place to get maybe holiday gifts.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. We actually have in stock right now too. And these sell really fast. Our building and ground superintendent, John Havens, is a woodworker. So he has been making these charcuterie boards from wood that came from the grove. So I mentioned, when we have a tree that dies, we have to take it down, but those make fantastic gifts. I've actually, hopefully none of my family's listening because I bought a few for Christmas gifts. So
we won't tell everybody. Keep a secret.
So those are in stock right now. And our visitor services manager is always coming up with fun ideas. She's got some tea sets where you can buy specialty tea that's specific to us, and the tea infusers or dippers. I'm not a tea drinker, so I'm probably not saying the lingo right, but they're very cool. So she's got all kinds of really neat stuff. And she's got a sale on some of our T-shirts right now as well. So, and cookie cutters. We have lots of cookie cutters. So I think those are buy one, get two free right now.
Is there anything that we've missed or anything else that you wanted to share?
Sometimes we do get asked a lot about our Christmas dinners, and you may have noticed there's not much on the website, if anything, about that. I think I have it in one spot on our calendar, and for the reason for that is those sell out almost immediately, and our members, Hayes Presidential Library and Museum members, get first crack at those. But I've been getting so many messages on social media and questions about it, I thought maybe I'd mention it. They're very neat. They happen the first Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in December in the Hayes home. And it's a catered multi-course meal. It's a Victorian experience, and it's just very, very neat. So that's something I do get asked about a lot. They are sold out for this year, but usually the information goes out to our members at the end of August each year, and they start booking in early September. So
that's a good point, right? If you want to know about these things, become a member. So tell people, what are the benefits of being a member with you, and how can people do that?
Yeah, so membership, there are so many things. Our membership coordinator, Megan Wonderly Colby, has added so many benefits in the time I've been here. It was a good deal before, but now it's an amazing deal. So you get free unlimited admission for 1 year to the Hayes Home and Museum. And it's like if you join on November 11th, it lasts until November 11th of the next year. You get discounts on most of our events, and that includes the Christmas dinners. And the higher level members get first crack at the Christmas dinner tickets, and then the lower level members get to buy them as well. So we've actually had people buy memberships just for Christmas dinners. But one of my favorite things, and we have had people join just for this, is Megan does monthly membership perks. And one of the most popular ones is happening this year, again in January and February, where you get to do a behind the scenes tour of the upstairs of the Hayes home. So they get a lot of member exclusive things, and those perks are free. They're part of your membership. And we do reciprocal things every October. You can go to Shadell Arboretum and Gardens for free if you're a member here, and then their members get in here for free. And we've done that with other museums and things as well.
Well, and I assume you can find all of that information on your website. Yes. Give it to us one more time.
Yeah. So for membership, it's rbhayes.org/membership.
All right. Well, thank you, Kristina. It was a joy talking with you today, and I really appreciate you joining us on the podcast. And of course, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so that you don't miss a minute of the action here in Shores and Islands, Ohio. You can also find more information, including past episodes of the podcast, online at shoresandislands.com. And we'll see you next time on The Shoreline.